point for me is actually depends on each and every one, but I believe this actually can work for almost everyone. Affirmation. No matter what you tell yourself every single day, even if it is a lie, it ends up being your truth or your reality. It starts with affirmation. The entry point for me is affirmation. I've heard you say once when you were taking us through something, and you explained how something as little as you are too small really helped you start outgrowing where you were at that moment. Affirmation is so powerful because affirmation actually, like I was saying in the beginning, talks to your subconscious. That's where the actual change starts, because you are telling yourself who you are. Everything's with the subconscious work with repetition. Repetition is in talking, repetition in action. That's why you are going to see some parents kill their children by repeating some things to them. You are too lazy. You are too lazy. The guy, every day that he wakes up, listen to, you are too lazy. So if he doesn't have that awareness that I need to tell myself that I am not lazy, he's going to end up being lazy, even not knowing why. So the first thing is affirmation. We need to affirm. The entry point is working on subconscious, and one way of working on a subconscious is affirmation, because you cannot, like we said in the beginning, you cannot necessarily leave your current environment. A step that you can take is changing your environment, but you cannot necessarily do that right away. So you can start by yourself, working on yourself by affirming some things to yourself. So that can be the entry.
Very interesting, because when you look at successful people like I would always give the example of Cristiano Ronaldo. He has considered himself to be the GOAT, to be the best. Even when he was still in Manchester United, when he was 18, 19, 20, he considered himself to be the best. And at that time, we still had the likes of what people would call the real Ronaldo, not Cristiano Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. We still had the likes of Kaká. We still had the likes of a lot of amazing players. But Cristiano always said he's the best. I remember there was an interview that at that time he was very young. I think it was about 18, 19. He was very young, and they asked him who is the best player in the world. And he said, it's myself, Cristiano Ronaldo. And at the time, he hasn't won a Ballon d'Or. I believe that one of the reasons why we see who Cristiano is today is because he constantly reminds or affirms to himself that he's the best. And then his subconscious has taken it as he's the best. And that's why you see him perform. But imagine if he never saw himself as the best, we are most likely going to be seeing a totally different Cristiano today as we are speaking. But he was able to do the affirmation. And affirmation really works. It's something that I've used in multiple occasions. It helps you to zap you out of the emotions of where you are. It's not just even in terms of identity. If you are in a very difficult position, let's say some tragedy happens to you, you can just keep saying to yourself, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And before you know it, you start to come out of that particular point. So affirmation 100% resonates with affirmation. Looking at it, we all know that there's a difference between transformation and sustainability of the transformation. The first comes realization, then the next comes transformation, and then the next comes sustaining the transformation. Now, there are two things. How do we sustain identity? How do we sustain our identity?
All right. We sort of put down a bit behavior in the beginning, but here's when he comes. The subconscious, for what I was able to learn throughout all the learning and everything during these years, the subconscious is funny. The state where you are, for him, is a safe place. So how can you make him understand that it's safe to move forward? It's safe to move a step forward is by starting implementing actions. Now, I insist on small, steady action, because you cannot be somebody that doesn't hold a book entirely when you were born until where you are right now. You've never hold a book to read and you start saying, okay, yes, I'm a reader, and takes a book and try to read 10 pages a day. You are going to exhaust your willpower, because willpower works against our subconscious. Now, to work with our subconscious, we need to make those action. Let's say when you want to give a kid a medicine and the medicine is a bit bitter, you put a little bit of sugar on it and you make it bearable for him. So it's the same way we need to function with our subconscious, by giving very little action. Let's take the example again of reading a book you've never read before. You are now on a journey where you understood that, okay, I need to read consistently. Don't start reading. I won't even advise 2 pages. Start reading for 1 minute, because it needs to feel for your subconscious, and it needs to not to hurt your subconscious. It needs to feel like, okay, just a little bit of, okay, it's okay. I can still go with, yes, I'm not a reader, but yeah, I can still go with the flow. Because even when you start with affirmation is something that is momentary. You need to back it with slight action to make it sustainable, like exactly like you said. First transformation and then sustainability. Affirmation helps you start the transformation, but then action, behavior start building that sustainability. So starting with that small action, at a point of time, you find yourself reading every single day, even if it's 1 minute. Now, let's take somebody that reads one book, finish one book with willpower, finish one book in 1 week, and never read again for 3 months. And another person that's haven't even finished that book, but every single day the person was reading for 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Who between the two of them is going to consider himself to be a reader? The second person, obviously. It's very important to start with very small, steady actions. Very small, steady actions for me is the way, like, behavior is how you sustain an identity, but starting small is very important. Starting small is crucial.